Well, it's 4, so I think we'll go ahead and get started. People can just jump on whenever they have a chance. But I wanted to thank everybody for coming today. I'm so excited to host this discussion on entry-level education. I know we have a really big agenda. We may not get through all of it today. That's okay. I think we're going to host at least one more of these discussions. So hopefully we'll have a chance to get through as much as we can today and address at least a little bit of each topic that we have on the menu. So I'm excited about that. So let me introduce myself. So I'm Stephanie Rodriguez. I've been a massage therapist for 6 years. For those of you that don't know me, I started USO LMT in April when we went into lockdown during the pandemic. And I've been working on this for just a little over a year now. And our goals this year are to address all of the issues that we've seen come up with massage therapists over the last year. And entry-level education was a really big one. It was one of the #1 concerns that people were talking about. So I wanted to make sure that we got people together to talk about this. With USO LMT, we stand for unity, advocacy, education, and engagement. So this is part of our efforts to engage massage therapists. And we're doing this every month and as often as we can, and engaging our wider community, not just our members, but as many people as we can to talk about issues and solutions going forward. So with that, I think we'll go ahead and start. So I think I mentioned to just raise your Zoom hand if you want to talk, and I'll just start firing off questions. That sound okay to everybody? Yes? Okay. All right. And then don't forget to unmute your microphones. You guys could, like, everybody unmute right now, and then that way you don't forget when you're talking. All right. So how's everybody doing? Good? Yeah. Yes. All right. So we're going to talk about the evolution of massage education first. As we all know, the required number of education hours differs from state to state. So the lowest is 500 hours and the highest that we see in the United States is 1,000 hours. So I would like to find someone who can talk about the difference between what's being offered in a 1,000-hour curriculum versus what's being offered in a 500-hour curriculum. So is there anybody out there that wants to address that? Somebody, anyone? Sandy, go ahead.
I can. Nobody knows where the educational hours came from. The 500 versus the 650 versus the whatever. The entry-level analysis project, ELAB, went through and figured out what an entry-level curriculum should look like, and that it would take 625 hours to do that. So sometimes you will find a longer program in a school that offers financial aid because there has to be certain number of hours in order to qualify for financial aid. So that usually hovers right around 750. So the question then becomes, is it filler? Do they just put something in there? Not that education in English or some of the other things isn't important, it is, but it speaks to whether or not that additional time frame is really adding more knowledge, or is it embracing some content that maybe should be more considered in an advanced level program. So if you've got 500 to 625 hours in entry level, a school that would be offering beyond that, the expectation would be that they're going beyond entry level. So what that means is all over the place.
Deanna, did you want to address that too?
Sure. Hi, Sandy. Sandy and I do these things together a lot. So, Stephanie, thank you for creating this forum.
Absolutely. So glad you're here.
So, a silly little historical context, the whole 500-hour minimum was arbitrarily picked years ago when massage programs started wanting to be included in some of those funding options and accreditation options that vocational programs find themselves in. So 500 hours was arbitrary at the time. And in higher education, many people on this call already know that. I can see names I'm familiar with. That in higher education, you either have a credit hour program or a clock hour program. And it became easier, or was more in line with massage training, hourly training, to apply under that for accreditation and funding and stuff. So that's just a kind of silly little historical note. And as far as, I'm curious what people think should be included between the 500 or the 625 and the 1,000-hour program, because I've participated in probably every level of those programs. And it's been my experience, and I think Sandy could speak to this too, that it all depends on the quality of education, because I've seen plenty of 500-hour programs create quality, successful practitioners, and I've seen 1,000-hour program, several 1,000-hour programs fall way short of creating what I would consider safe. And so it's, for me, it's not about hours. I stand on a soapbox with many of my colleagues that competency-based is the better way to go.
Yes.
And so, yeah, that will probably be a soapbox I'll stand on a couple times today. So I want to hear from some other folks around this hourly discussion, and what you find that works and what you find that doesn't work.
Mm-hmm. Is there anybody that wants to talk about that? What is working and what isn't working? Let's see. I think we have Jennifer.
It doesn't seem right now. So the last time I taught entry-level massage was in 2018. But what I was seeing was shocking. And it had, I mean, and it was on, it had to do with the curriculum of the school that I was working for, as well as the quality of students. And I really hate to put it that way, the quality of students. But yeah, the quality of students. I mean, I don't know what a lot of students think that a massage therapy training program is going to be. But many of them are ambivalent at best. So that's what I'm noticing.
Mm-hmm.
So Stephanie, to your question about what would be taught, it's no secret that I write a textbook, and the textbook is set up to serve programs from the 500-hour content level up past the 1,000-hour content level. It depends on how much in depth each content area is covered. But there is a unit called Beyond the Basics, and it's at the last unit in the textbook. And in that unit is covered adjunct methods, hydrotherapy, some of the cupping, some of those instrument assisted, that sort of thing. There's a chapter related to adaptation based on practice setting, whether it's medical or spa or sport or fitness or wellness. There's a chapter on adaptation to unique circumstances such as oncology care, prenatal, an adaptation to accommodation under the Americans for Disability Act. There's a chapter that is all about case studies. You know, so that's how if I were going to say, answer your question, what belongs beyond 500, it would be the material I cover in the unit beyond the basics.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, let's talk about the next question I had. I wanted to kind of address when a graduate comes out of a 1,000-hour program versus a 500-hour program. Are we seeing that the graduates in the 1,000-hour programs are getting higher wages? Are we seeing that they are more prepared for the workplace? What's the difference? Anybody want to address that one? Jessica, you have your hand up. Did you want to speak?
Well, actually, here, let me come on video. Oops. Hi. So I actually am a massage therapist in New York State. To speak to what Sandy said was what I was going to say. So I basically graduated from a Swedish Institute right before the state changed the number of hours from 650 to 1,000 hours. And so I can speak to the difference in curriculum in New York State. And the big difference in curriculum from the 650 hours to the 1,000 hours, because I taught at a massage school and still teach at a massage school in New York, is all the little things in the back of Sandy's book. So, but they're all short, short, like maybe, connective tissue theory. That's a longer modality. There's some energy palpation classes that are taught, hydrotherapy, prenatal massage, sports massage, trigger point, stuff like that. And I actually think that they kind of aren't really basic, but they are basic in a way. Because I can think about when I graduated from school and I didn't know what trigger point therapy was. So to have an introduction to it gives the graduating student a little bit of a taste of what those modalities are, and can help them to figure out. Because basically in New York State, the requirements are in terms of what you're mainly tested on is your Swedish and shiatsu, but there's other things sprinkled in there, but like a little bit of knowledge of the other things like sports massage, but those are the big ones. So everything that Sandy said is spot on, and from my experience seeing the differences, I actually think in terms of, and I understand the whole quality and quantity thing. And maybe I just was at a very good school that I taught at, but the 1,000 hours that they covered, the quality was amazing in terms of teaching the different extra add-ons. So that's my 2 cents.
All right.
That's a great 2 cents. What I want to say, and anybody else that's in, I teach a 625-hour program following recommendations of ELAP, and I cover all of those things. Enough for a person to move confidently into practice as a beginner.
Right.
All right, but they know all of that because it's not a whole system in and of itself. Those are all adaptations. So, I support what I support the 625 hours. It keeps the cost in play. It fits with what most licenses are. And I think if it's taught well, adequately prepares a graduate for their first job.
Mm-hmm. All right, Jennifer had her hand up. Jennifer, did you want to speak?
Hey, can everybody hear me okay? Yeah, okay, great. Yeah, I'm in New York too. So I'm always struggling with this because I think somebody mentioned the concept of, competencies versus hours. And I think that's a better model. I know like in Canada, there's provinces that go by competencies. But, we're kind of stuck with the laws that we have. So, in New York, they're like, here, you got to do this 1,000 hours and you have to break it up in this way. And, there's 200 hours of anatomy and, they don't dictate, what books we use or whatever, but they definitely require X number of hours in certain subjects, including a certain number of hours of Eastern massage and theory and practice, which probably, I think, who was it, Jessica, that was in New York too. I think that if you kind of ballpark it, it's probably about 100 of the 1,000 hours is minimum, like is spent on both theory and practice of that. But so that's what we're required to do. I'm also in a community college, so that structure is a little bit different because I'm also converting from credit hours to clock hours, which is a little awkward. But I'm glad that the program is in the college because well, first of all, we're kind of in the middle of nowhere, so we're a school where it makes it accessible to people that would have to really travel far to go to a massage school. So, there's certain financial aid that's available to people maybe that they wouldn't otherwise have. So, it's good, but I'm always juggling and struggling. Like I'm actually I'm the program director. So I have a certain amount of ability to give a direction to the overall program, but I have to work within the guidelines of the college and with SUNY, which is the State University of New York. What I'm trying to focus on, since I have to do the 1,000 hours anyway, right, is to take the extra time as I see it, like over and above getting the basics. And one thing I see as maybe a little bit of a gap in the education as a whole is if you're going to practice as an entry level, as you're saying, Sandy, and you do a really good job and have a really tight coordinated curriculum, 625 hours or 650, I can't quite remember what you were saying. You can cover that. So then what would be the next thing that you would kind of go to, since we have to do it anyway? And what I'm trying to figure out is how to have what a lot of other healthcare professions have, is like supervised practice, right? So if you could shadow somebody in a facility, or if you could shadow somebody in practice, because that's what, we have a nursing program, we have a rad tech program. That's what they do. They go into clinical settings, but they don't practice independently. They're supervised, because then they see people in practice working. And so then that is where you can implement your critical thinking skills. Like you can teach that in the entry level, but then to put it into practice and to be supervised and to have someone give you feedback and input and, watch you make those decisions and say, well, you're halfway there. This was good. This wasn't great. So I've been trying to get us to get some of our clinical hours in a hospital and a nursing home and stuff. And I kind of got halfway there, and then I got kicked out because of COVID. but I'm trying to get back to that. We just had an agreement all set up in March of 2020, and they're like, sorry, we're shutting this all down. Like our nursing students weren't allowed to go into clinical settings for a while, which I'm not sure how that's going to work with the nurses, right, that come out of that experience, because it's like really valuable. So watching people in practice do that and get the confidence, like it's confidence building, it's problem solving, it's, running into novel situations. So you're taking the knowledge that you have, but then suddenly you're in this novel situation, like, oh, but this person has 5 different serious medical conditions. So then how do you balance that all out? And in the basics, I incorporate Tracy Walton's medical conditions and massage text. I adopted that, and some other material to right from the start to get them thinking along those lines of, I'm going to learn the basics. I'm really strong on fundamentals, just because, I did a lot of sports in high school. Like you have to do your drills and learn your fundamentals, and you have to learn your body mechanics, right? Or you're going to get hurt. But then when you start to master that, then you go to the next step where you're in the game and weird things start to happen and you have to figure things out that you haven't seen before. So, I'm like trying to use the extra time, what I kind of think is extra time, to start them on the process of implementing their clinical reasoning. But I have to say, as somebody else mentioned, some of the students that I am getting in the program don't seem quite prepared for that. So I'm not sure, I'm always trying to figure out, and I do get support from the college too, for people that have learning issues and people who have not had a great high school education and they haven't gotten study skills, and, they're not prepared for college, basically. I'm always calling on those resources. We have tutoring and we have various different kinds of support to help those students. But I feel like I'm always trying to push them forward. And then I always have to make sure that I don't lose people along the way that need a little bit extra hand holding, which is not really a great term, but just support, to shore up their basic skills so they can incorporate that information. So I get, if you're asking about the difference between the 1,000-hour program, I feel like I have a little bit of a luxury, to start them into that process, which really is not really entry level. I would agree. But since I have to do it anyway, I might as well take them, I always want to make sure there's a link though between the entry level skills and then what the next step is. Like, don't forget your fundamentals, don't forget your basic strokes, don't forget that they should always be in the context of relaxation, don't forget the basic premise of presence and client communication. But now when you're put into a more complicated setting or population or whatever, then how do you maintain all of that and start in with some of these more complicated problem solving situations?
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. What about, are there resources that teach study skills to students that they can draw on before they enter a complicated program like that? Does anybody know of any resources that are out there that students could access? Deanna, do you know?
I know ABMP has some student success materials that they wrote. I want to say it's been 10 years or something ago, but part of their little pre-thing, and I don't know, it could be just for their student memberships. I'm not sure what the membership thing is. I'm not really familiar with their process, but they wrote some really cool things that I used to use in orientations having to do with applying study skills. Learn, where can you go for these things? How can you practice studying when you haven't been to school for 15 years and things like that? So that's one resource that I know of. And then sadly, most schools I've worked with have had to develop their own kind of basic skills sets that they help certain students acquire that they don't come to school with, and that could be a lot of things, and we borderline on sometimes counseling and helping people with basic life skills. I don't know if you guys find that in community colleges, but certainly in the private sector. And so, you know, it would be kind of cool, and I know the Alliance is working on some of those kinds of resources for teachers and for school administrators, because the Alliance for Massage Therapy Education, I should have said AFMTE if you hear that acronym. But so that schools and teachers could gather some of these resources and not have to kind of reinvent the wheel every time. And that's something that sadly has happened for decades now.
Mm-hmm. So Karen, you had your hand up. Did you want to speak?
Yes, so I'm also in New York, and I taught at the same school as Jessica. And in terms of having 1,000 hours, so I also trained in a school that had less than 1,000 hours. And what I think that school I was in, that was in Westchester, New York, what they did really well is the hands-on portion. And I think that makes a huge difference for students' preparedness to go into the workforce, because you can learn all the theory you want, but you need to practice it. And, you know, you just have to practice. And what we had there was different sets of clinics, a student clinic where they practiced on each other, because it's also really important to feel the work on yourself before you go out and work on other people to really understand it. And then clinics for the public, but also meeting different populations. So senior clinics, also working with people with developmental disabilities, going out to offsite clinics, to events. And so if a significant portion is spent on that, then I think students are much better prepared to go out on their own. And here's also something that has changed over the many years I've been in this profession. When I started in this training and I wanted to become a massage therapist, most of us were talking about, we're going to have our own practice. The last few years, it was, I'm going to work at a spa. And that's a very different situation. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, I want to keep an open mind, but I think there is a downside to the whole spa industry that has taken over. They pushed what students can, or what massage therapists can earn down. They don't really offer benefits. You can work many hours in a spa, so maybe the massage doesn't have the same quality because you might be rushing from one client to the other. You feel a little exploited, and self-care is huge too. So in our school, we also had some emphasis on self-care. How do you survive in this profession? Because we also do know that people get worn out, get injured, and that's why they're stopping. So how can I teach somebody before they get to this situation? So I really think that the difference in the hours in the basic training between maybe 700 and 1,000 would be a really good hands-on portion, supervised clinics, students to, you know, do case studies. They have to write up, and they did have to do this with us too. What did they do an intake? What was their treatment? Then if they saw their client several times, what has changed? Because you need to see that in order to know, if I'm doing this, this has the effect. And it works this way with one client, it doesn't have the same effect on another. So what do I learn from that? So I'm for, not that it have to be 1,000 hours, but I would advocate for schools having a really significant hands-on portion. Because the school I'm teaching now has the same 1,000 hours, but they're using it very differently. They have fewer clinic hours. The students are starting their hands-on portion much later, and I'm teaching hands-on classes, but the curriculum doesn't include it in the same way. And, you know, all the schools have freedom over that.
Interesting. Valerie, did you have something to add?
I do. I hear everyone, and I have run my own school. I have worked at a very major school as an education manager, and I was in community college as the director of the program. What I did when I went to the community college was basically take my program and bring it into community college. I love the way community college works for many reasons. And I don't believe it will bring down anybody's pay. I think anyone who goes through community college, the standard is so high, but you can take financial aid if you don't have a degree, which is a huge bonus, unlike private schools where you take financial aid, but then there's so much more money added on to the curriculum that you come out of school in debt. And we had, it was a 3-semester program. So it was on semesters rather than hours, but it was based on, I'm from Massachusetts. So right now it's 650. My program was always 700 hours, even before. And we do lots of clinic, 200 hours of clinic. And, you know, clinic is so important. Whoever was, I think it was Jennifer was talking about how, and Karen, you did too, about they need to have the critical thinking. They need to be able to touch the bodies and then talk about it and analyze it and what happened and what didn't happen and be supervised. Mm-hmm. You know, have that end of the curtain open once everybody's busy so that the supervisor can see everything and go in and touch people if they need to. And we are a science-based work, but we're also an energetic and heart-based work. So the two together is really what makes powerful therapists. And I have to agree with Karen that unfortunately, thank goodness not all schools are like that, but you mentioned something, Stephanie, that I didn't even know about the franchises. Well, I did hear about this, beginning their own schools. And if that's the case, that's just going to be funneling students into a very narrow place. And they're not going to be taught how to run their own business, which is what we all did. We came out of, I went to school in 1970 in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Okay. And I am 72 and I still have a vibrant practice and teach and practice self-care and love going to work because we know it's not work. So I don't want to see us lose that. Mm-hmm. And Sandy, what you said, the things that we teach, the extra things, incorporating them into somehow, you know, like having trigger actually be a piece of the essential, because isn't it really? You know, so I'm agreeing with everyone here, and I want to save our profession, and I saw it, people not wanting to come anymore, and I think a lot of it had to do, A, with the money, and B, with the fact that they thought that they could only go into a franchise when they left work, when they left school, rather. And I want to help fix that. And again, the franchises did have a place, but they took over. They did have a place. They helped a lot of people who never had massage before. But still, they can't be the ones in charge. I think it needs to be a family, and they need to come and sit with us at the table and not stand over there. Okay, I'm done for now.
But well, we kind of brought up, a couple people brought up how, you know, when they went to school. So let's talk about that. I'll talk about my education first. So I've been a therapist for 6 years. I graduated in 2015. And I don't really know that I went to a Steiner school, which we all know closed. All the Steiner locations are closed except for one the year after I graduated. But my program, I felt like my program was very science, very evidence-based. I didn't learn hot stone in school. I didn't learn a lot of extras. The biggest part of my program was myofascial massage. And I thought that my program was great. The only things that I've really seen different from the time that I graduated I think until now, I mean, I'm sure a little bit more with the, you know, COVID restrictions, things like that I'm sure have changed over the last year, but I don't really see that a whole lot more has changed since I graduated. And I'm curious to know, like, someone who graduated 10 years ago or even longer, like what have you seen change coming out of students and coming into the field now? Let's see. Who's first? How about Valerie? Why don't you go ahead and take that one first?
I forget who said it, someone early on, I don't see her name right now, but the students who come now compared to even the students who we had, say 2018, 2018, even in 2018, I noticed, I worked at Cortiva in the end, which was taken over by Steiner. And I worked again in Massachusetts. So things, you know, all of a sudden school was, you got to go, 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 go. One semester ends, you start the next semester, you start the next semester. And I did find, I'm sorry, you're hearing outside noise right now. I live in a rural area. So
you're good.
So I did see that for most of my life in this profession, people came into school with the passion of touching, helping, caring, and understanding that it was going to be their life. Maybe a piece of their life, maybe a whole piece of their life, I don't know, but that's what you got. Towards the end, I would say 2018, 2019, I think a lot of people are ambivalent. They don't understand what it's all about. They don't understand that it's not just touching people. They don't understand the science base, and they don't understand themselves enough to know why they're even there. So I'm going to go to school to rub people. It basically is, unfortunately, not everybody in the class, but there is a piece of that. And then you have other students, of course, who, if they taught themselves, they would be blessed massage therapists. So I think the difference is that there's not enough understanding of our profession because some of it has been lost. Some of it is not available. We used to do, you always did sessions, before school started, people came in, info sessions, and they came in and they talked to you and you told them what it was all about and what was going to happen. I don't see that happening anymore. So people would understand this is what it's going to be like. Oh, you mean I'm going to spend, I did 200 hours of clinic. I'm going to spend 200 hours touching people. Yep, you are. And they're going to be naked. Yes, they are. Oh, well, I don't know if I want to do that. They need to know that before they come to school. So I don't think that I think there's plenty of people out there who want to do massage and want to learn, but there's also people who just think it's rubbing and, they're going to make a lot of money.
Yeah, I think I knew massage, but nobody told me that when I started. There was no big explanation. I literally went to school, met with the entry person for like 10 minutes, and I was signed up.
Yeah. That doesn't help you, but you had the passion. So
yeah.
Okay. All right. Somebody else.
All right, Tanya. Hey, let's have you talk. Haven't seen you yet, heard from you yet.
Hi, everybody. It's really nice to see some of the Facebook thumbnails come to life. So I'm walking and talking, which is probably not the smartest thing, but I'm used to multitasking. But one thing that I noticed is very different. So I graduated in 1994. And I'm Gen X, and this is not a blanket generalization, but it is a general observation, is that a lot of students don't want to put in the work that it takes to get ninja at this. And like I see them come in, and granted, it's just a different mindset, different culture, different generation. It's like they get out of school and they're like, okay, give me $150 because I got my my license now, without understanding that people have to work up to those numbers, and they go in and they get disillusioned that, you know, top end clientele that's used to having, you know, massages from all over the world might not be entirely willing to fork over that right away. They're like, okay, might be worth $60, but not 150, or depending where somebody's located, the amount is different. You know, the pay scale is different. But yeah, I do notice that a lot of students do not want to put in the work. It's like, we're doing a hands-on class. I'm like, okay, everybody work on this thing. And then you see a few of them just stop. And I'm like, okay, why are you stopped? And they say, I did it already. And I'm like, wait a minute. So you did the thing once and you're already an expert at it? Because I'm still learning it. It was 25 years later. And it's that mindset that also, yeah, I think that's a thing that needs to be contended with. And of course, there are definitely exceptions to that. And, you know, amazing younger students in there, like millennials, Gen Z, that are wise beyond their years, but a lot of times not so much. It's an instant gratification culture, and this is not an instant gratification art form. It's like, you know, compare it to martial arts. You have to train, otherwise it's going to be mediocre. It's going to be fine at best, and you can be fine if that's what you want, but yeah, that's another thing. And I agree with things everybody has said so far, but adding like also what is looking at who's in the program. And it's a different generation, and I don't know if they're going to get it, but the ones that do get it are going to soar far above than the ones that are in it or think it's easy. It's not.
No.
It's great work. I love the physicality. This is why I've been doing it for so long. I love physical labor, strangely, but some people don't put the time in. That's not
true.
School is nothing. You don't learn it, and you get like, I can't tell you how many free massages. I got my hands into everything I could when I finished school. I was just like hungry to just learn and get better. But anyway, those are my 2 cents. Thank you. Hi, everyone.
Hey. Deanna, did you have something to add into that?
I'm just excited to hear that. You seem as enthusiastic today as you were in 1994 or whatever you went to school. So I went to school for massage in 2002, I think it was. So yeah, I'm approaching my 20th year almost, and I've been educating forever. And I was part of the Cortiva movement and then Steiner movement, and then my exit was synonymous with that. But so, and Valerie, I'm familiar with your input. Thank you for what you do. My thoughts on all of this about the types of students that are coming in. I've got both sides of my brain fighting with each other for who gets to talk first right now. But my thoughts on it are, we attract the market we speak to, and so many about 12 years ago, I think. When was the balloon, Sandy, with all of the career colleges coming into the thing? It was probably about 12 years ago, 14. I can't remember.
2006 was when we got the major.
Okay, yeah. So 15 years ago. The type of marketing, the type of students they were looking for were people looking for a job. Here's a valuable job. There's job opportunities available as soon as you graduate. So people looking for a job may or may not also be interested in helping and caring and touching those things that Valerie mentioned. And that's great, but they may also not be. And a lot of that kind of saturation of the market for lack of a better word, I hate that word, but that happened during that time really gave people an idea, what I call layman's terms, right? The people who aren't massage therapists, an idea of what massage school might be as a job training place, and which it can be, but that's not really what it is. And we who've been through it know that it's, you know, personal transformation. It changes your life. This is a lifestyle. This isn't a career. This is all of that. And yet, when they arrive in our classrooms with different expectations than that, I think it's takes a skill set for educators, and you need all your educators in your environment to be on board with helping them understand what is. So that may have been your expectation, and here's what this is, and being able to train them from that perspective. Because if we skip that thought, they're going to constantly go through with expectations that don't match what they're getting, and then the school's reputation may benefit or not, most likely, from that. And so it furthers that kind of misperception of what is massage therapy and what is massage therapy education out there. So, and then my other brain is saying, but you've in this pandemic, I've been traveling around to schools to find out what they're doing to reopen and helping reopen and talking to educators, and I've met a lot of young, enthusiastic people that are actually signing up for massage school in a pandemic. That tells you something about their character. Who is, you know, they could train for any other job. They could just get unemployment, but they have something in them that says, I want to help. I want to figure out how to help this world. And they maybe have touch deprivation themselves or their families, and they understand. So my other side of my brain is like, don't talk about young people that way, because I'm seeing them come out and they're just fantastic, and that's the people we want, right? That's the sweet little birds we want in our nest. So I have that fight going on inside my head. And you know what? We may have been damaged a little bit by the career schools and everybody who got into it to create massage as a job situation. But a lot more people know about massage now. So now it's on us to educate the communities and the public about what it really is. So, oh, you've heard of massage. Well, what have you heard? Because here's what it is to me. You know, so I just think educating our communities has to go hand in hand with educating new therapists. So there's another soapbox I get on. So
I definitely want to get on that soapbox, because public education is sorely lacking in what's going on here. I feel like we educate the public when they come to our office, right? And then we say, okay, what do you need today? And we talk to them a little bit about massage, and then we send them on their way. But there is literally no, like, why are there not commercials about massage therapy? Why do I know more about prescription drugs than the profession that I'm in? Like, why do people not know this? And I want to like get massage therapists to do public speaking and get them to do talks and get them to actually educate and get this stuff out there. I mean, I know like ABMP has a magazine that they can send out to clients, and people are sending out newsletters and stuff like that. But like, I would love to see a bigger public education project that actually makes an impact. Like, how do we do that?
It's been tried, Stephanie. You know,
we should try again.
Yeah. I've been, so I'm 41 years in, and I own a massage therapy school I have for 35 years. I've written a textbook for 25 years. So the world that I entered massage in is not the world that our graduates are entering. It is not. And I think we run into a struggle when we continue to try to mold this current student into how we see it and how we experienced it. Most of the people, and I've been there, I've done that, I've been involved forever. My generation, I'm 68, my generation, I was one of the very few that was working full-time to support a family. Massage back in the day was more of a, I'm going to use the word hobby as opposed to a job, but it was something that people did because with that wanting to idea that was talked about. So it's, people are looking at this as, how am I going to support myself and my family now?
Yeah.
And in 2002, when the franchises hit the market, they offered an opportunity for employment that would stabilize income more than self-employment. Self-employment is all over the place. I've been self-employed forever. And, you know, it's just, we need to really, those of us that have been for a long time, we need to really reframe where we're at. When I look at the textbooks from the very first edition back in 95 to the one that just came out, the core context has not changed very much. What has changed is research. That has changed. But I just redid the whole business idea. And I get frustrated as a massage educator that I have to teach remedial education and I have to teach business. That's a skill set in and of itself. If a person wants to be self-employed, that is something over and above massage therapy as a skill set training that includes all of the other stuff that people have talked about. But you know, we came out of most of us were old hippies, for goodness sakes. You should have seen it back in the day, all right? And so it came with that. And then there was the whole 80s and the new age, and it came through that. And now it's mainstream. Now we wanted to get into medical environments and we wanted this and we want that. And now we've got it. And now we complain. And so you know, in private conversations with educators my age, I kind of get on them a little bit that we can't develop them and mold them the way we did it. Our world was very different than their world. And I own a franchise. My family bought one and I participated in that because I wanted to know what it was really like. And there is so much misinformation out there about how the franchise system runs, the employment, the income. And yet we're teaching our biases if we're not really careful. And so massage has not changed. Not if you look at the textbooks that I've done over those years. We didn't try to teach everything in entry level. You had an ongoing education. You didn't learn connective tissue work and how to use this and lymphatic drain and all of that. That it was an ongoing process. We didn't have licensure. We didn't have regulation. We didn't have any of that. And so the world is different. You're different, Stephanie. Your generation is different. The young students that I have right now that are 25 and under, their world's different. They want multiple income paths. They don't want to be tied down to a 40-hour job. They want to do this, they want to do that, and they want to do the other stuff. And I really think in entry-level education, we're missing it. We are missing it. And then we are whining and complaining.
Well, there's a lot of that going on in our industry, but we won't go there right now. So yeah, I mean, there's so many things going on. And everybody's got a difference of opinion, right? But I hope that through some of this, we can at least come up with some solutions that we can all kind of agree on and work towards, right? So let's talk about COVID-19. How has that changed in your schools? Anybody want to talk about that? Jessica, I know you've had your hand up for a while. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. I mean, I had my hand up a while back, but it's fine. It was when Valerie was speaking.
I know, I'm sorry.
It's okay. You're trying to moderate everything, and it's not a big deal. But so I actually, I had a very interesting occurrence of events in my life. I fell victim to a school closing right before the pandemic hit. I opened a continuing education business that went out of business because of COVID. And I had all these workshops set up, and I could do nothing for a full year. So in that time frame, though, one of my colleagues who worked at a school at a massage program hired me to teach virtually. And so this actually hits on a bunch of things. So number one, I am a science teacher. I can teach hands-on classes, but I basically teach anatomy and physiology, and I teach kinesiology. So I got hired to teach kinesiology. So if I was actually in the classroom with my students, even though kinesiology is mainly theory, it's very important to do the touching stuff, the palpation, and it's important for, I think, being with the student and placing their hands where they need to be to palpate, muscle bellies, origins, insertions, whatever, just to get an idea where the muscles are. I mean, you cannot be a good massage therapist, in my opinion, unless you know where the muscles are and what they feel like. So in terms of first of all, teaching virtually, that was a skill I needed to learn, and I'm still learning because it's very, it's challenging. It's challenging in many ways. It's challenging because I need to every day figure out how I'm going to keep my students engaged and keep them. And I appreciate how everybody is coming on video. That's the one thing that I try to get my students to do. And I find it's been my experience that the students that don't come on video don't do as well on the quizzes and the exams. So I don't know, I don't know what they're doing when they're not on video. They may be in the bathroom, they may just be logged on and not present at all. So I think that that's been the biggest challenge of mine, is creating some type of presence with my students and getting them engaged. I'm very fortunate that right now I have a few students which is interesting. They're younger, but they're engaged, and they want to be on video, which is great. So I'm getting that back and forth, because I could talk to my laptop, for hours, but that doesn't mean that they're getting it. So that's an important thing. And I think that especially for what I teach, critical thinking is the biggest part of it. So they have project, they have and I think that Sandy just said that online training is here to stay, and I agree with that. And actually, the school that I teach for, I don't want to go in because it's too far away, and I appreciate that I have the job. But I think that maybe it's I need to figure out other ways to keep the students engaged in terms of that. But maybe it's just me. I'm a massage therapist. I like to touch people. I like to be near people. So I like to be in the classroom as well. But those are my thoughts of how things are changing. The hands-on classes are moving back on campus, or have been moving back. So that's a good thing for the students. And I also think that Valerie touched on a couple of really interesting things about, massage therapists and the programs. They're so different than any other type of program. And I think that in terms of the students being virtual, if they're not interacting with each other, it takes away from their experience of being in school together. And it's, I don't remember who said it earlier. It may have been, I don't know if it's Deanna or Dina had mentioned, I think it was her, about, the whole life-changing part of massage programs. And I truly believe that it can be very life-changing. And part of that is the students having the ability to go through it together, and being able to have their hands on each other. So while if they are virtually learning, they need to be engaged with each other to have that part of the process, I think.
Yeah, I think that's true. What about what do the programs look like now with students in the classroom during COVID-19? Like, what does that look like?
So I'm not in the classroom because I'm teaching virtually. So I know that the school that I work for, before the students can be on campus, they need to either download an app on their phone and fill in, how they feel, get their temperature taken. And I'm not quite sure what PPE they're using when they're at the school because I'm not there. And things keep changing, so I'm really not quite sure what exactly is happening there.
Yeah. Is anybody else teaching hands-on? I mean, right now, Sandy, what's it like in your classroom?
We always followed a majority of the sanitation procedures.
Yeah.
All right. So it really wasn't that big of a change. We wear masks. Nobody died. It's okay.
Hey, it's good.
We're having discussions now with what are we going to do when we don't have to wear masks? That's going to change here in Michigan, July 1. And I actually used that as a critical thinking process for the students, and they came up with their own way that they wanted to do that. So, and I thought that was really good.
Can you share that with us?
Well, I just put it forth as a problem. All right. So now it's not a have to. Pretty soon it's not going to be a have to. And if you're fully vaccinated, you don't have to now. I've required it because, it just is simpler than to have to go through who's vaccinated and who's not, and how that creates a separation. And then we brainstormed ideas. If we talked about the facts, we talked about transmission routes, we talked about vaccination, we talked about state requirements, we looked at all of the things that create the box around the decision, the facts. Then we brainstormed possibilities about how we would do that, and came up with 4 or 5 that had a likelihood of having a successful implementation. Then we pro'd and conned that. What's the pros of this? What's the cons of that? It's the same pattern I use in the textbooks through the whole thing. And then we came up with 2 that would most likely work. And then from that, we did a decision process and an implementation. And what they came up with is that we will continue to wear masks when we are inside, and that when we are outside, we won't, because we don't have to, and we can social distance. And that I will find opportunities to take the class outside.
You know what idea. Yeah.
So, and the remote, truly the remote process that we were forced into worked so well. I mean, it was a scramble, but it worked so well that I altered my syllabus, and we are built in now with remote classes.
That's awesome.
And, so concentrate on the hands-on in the classroom and the didactic material. And the students have developed a relationship. I have a conversation with the students on Zoom. I don't try to script it. I don't have fancy PowerPoints. I teach it just like I would if we were sitting around a desk in a classroom. And it's worked very well. I have seen actually a higher level of understanding of putting the pieces together. I don't know why, but I have. And so it'll be something for me to continue to look at on that.
Good. That's good. So let's talk about online education and the franchises. Who knows about Empower?
I do.
Okay. And Deanna, you know about Empower? All right. Let's talk about Empower and this new model of education with the franchises. Anybody want to kind of I know I've done my own research on how this whole thing got started and who's kind of behind the whole thing. But what do you guys know? What do you guys know? What do you think?
Well, I'll start it out with that there's a lot of misunderstanding about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a lot of misunderstanding about massage and franchises. People don't even understand what a franchise is. So that colors the window that we look at with this. This is not a new form of education and occupational development. It has been around forever. And so Auburn University adopted the Empower online portion that was pre-developed, and it actually has CompTIA approval, curriculum endorsement. And the difference is that the hands-on portion is taught in a franchise. The franchises are not the school. Empower partners with a school within the state. That school then enrolls, and then the students complete the didactic material through this online platform. I've not seen it, but if CompTIA looked at it, then it can't be all bad. And the pass rate that they're getting on it is 90% on the MLEX. So that's something to consider as well. Mm-hmm. And then the student the Empower then has spa partners or employer partners. And the student does their hands-on training with the partner. And there is a payment plan structure in place, and the employer can participate in helping waylay some of the costs. And, it's the old apprenticeship type of training. It is been very successful in other venues for other occupations. So just, I think that's people, we're scared. I think schools think, oh my goodness, why would they come to my school when they're going to do this, that, or the other thing? Oh, they're just doing that to feed through to, I think we just need to get over that. It isn't that. It's a form of education that's been around forever. It's now available in massage. Empower is not the only one that has a platform like this, but they're the one that's really marketing it. Mm-hmm. And they've got the most formal and have progressed the most with it.
Right. And then Deanna, do you have any thoughts to add onto that?
That's exactly my understanding, is what Sandy just said. I haven't seen the platform myself, but I've provided. So side note, I'm the former COO for Sohn & Moe Associates, who publishes Business Mastery and the Ethics of Touch. So I'm often, even though I still do consult with Cherie and partner with that company, I'm no longer employed by them, but I'm often contacted for those supplies. So that's how I got involved. The Empower people have reached out to find out how to get the some of our videos and teacher resources and stuff for their platform. So in return, I'm trying to ask if I can have access to see what the platform looks like for my own curiosity.
Want to see it?
I haven't yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I know one of my instructors is teaching on the platform, one of my old instructors, and she was phenomenal. So I did have a conversation with her, and I felt a lot better after talking to her and kind of getting the insight on what was going on, because I know that she was one of the best instructors I had. So I was happy to hear that things were on the up and up, at least in, that education part. But I am kind of hearing that what's happening at the hands-on portion, at least in some local businesses that are in Arizona, may not be so structured or so great. So yeah, Deanna, did you?
Just as an add-on, that was going to be my question for my additional follow-up with the Empower people, is when the students go to those apprenticeships, externships, how are their partnerships chosen, and are the partner therapists trained in education at all? Because my angle with the Alliance course is going to be like, hey, can we help at least educate some practitioners so that it's the most effective situation? Because let's face it, anybody can choose to get into massage education that wants to. There's nothing we can do about it. So there's no reason to go there. But what we can do is say, hey, if you're going to be training massage therapists, how can we help you so that these folks get trained properly and it doesn't diminish our profession in some way? That's my angle on that. And I think, and I don't speak for the Alliance as a whole, but I think that should be the educators' perspectives on that is, tell us about your education program and do you have the resources you need? I don't know. Yeah. Anybody else have a thought on that?
I mean, I think it makes a great point because I know that one of the places here has a lot of locations, and they are using this school, and they were just kind of like going around from educator to educator trying to find somebody to work within their offices. And there was some concern over the educators and their experience levels and stuff like that were in there, that maybe that's not, the greatest. And how are they supervised in there, when they're working on other students? Are they being observed? So there are a lot of questions that I think that still need to be answered. And at some point, hopefully they will, once we get a couple rounds of this program gone through, then students will be coming out talking about it, and I would like to hear some of that.
You find in a school though, Stephanie, you've got people who have just graduated, the school hires them to turn around and teach clinic.
Yeah.
So it's not about whether or not this is good or bad, apprenticeship training, you know, learn by doing along with somebody is doing, has been an excellent mode of training for a long time. That's how massage was really taught a lot back in the day. And so, you know, how much, first of all, the NBLEX doesn't test hands-on skills at all. So our licensing, if we're looking at skill set, our licensing doesn't support hands-on skill set. So, you know, with this apprenticeship type training, they want massage therapists that they're going to hire, and they're investing in their education to not be crappy. They want them to be good. They want them to be able to develop, you know, evolve and develop so that they are providing an excellent massage service. They're vested in that. And I think that is going to provide even more focus on developing a high level of skill set. Are they going to teach them how to do business, self-employed? I'm not so sure that massage schools should have to teach business at all. We should say, if you want to be self-employed, this is where you need to go to learn how to do that. If you want to be an employee and run your career that way, then here are the basics for being a good employee. Here's a little bit of difference, but I should not have to take time in the classroom to teach accounting skills. This is massage school.
I hear that.
You know, and so, and I probably got the most comprehensive chapter in my textbook about this stuff. So it's not like I don't have the information available. So I think saying, well, they're not going to learn how to be self-employed, I don't think that's relevant. I think that there is a buy-in to have really good massage therapists at entry level done in the apprentice model. And there are going to be some bad apples, just like there are in massage schools right now.
I hear that. Well, you guys up here in this top row, I know you guys want to talk. Who wants to go first up there? Valerie, you want to go first? You're muted though, so I can't hear you.
Okay. So I have a few responses to you, Sandy, and some discussion around, well, first of all, you're talking about a hybrid model, which is absolutely fabulous. A hybrid model is great. I love them. I think they really work. I think the fact that we have students now who grew up on YouTube and, you know, all these different things, they can sit in an anatomy and physiology class on Zoom and really get it. Hands-on, not so much. And I don't like doing hands-on on Zoom. I work for a school. I've been working for them for 15 years. They're friends of mine. And I did just some extra stuff hands-on, and that part I didn't like at all because I had to watch each person. I can't touch them. So I don't think a hybrid model should be hands-on. I think it should be the didactic, absolutely. Now about the apprenticeship, that's been around forever. What used to happen, like when I went to school, I went to school for a year, 5 days a week. Of course, I was young, so I went to work at night in a bar. But during the day, I went to massage school. And on Thursdays, we worked from basically 9A to 10P because my clinic, starting from the very first week, was on Thursdays. And that was how I went to school. I feel that the apprentice, you went out and you worked for people, but you didn't get paid. And I think that's part of what needs to be. I think, Deanna, you said it, or maybe Sandy, you did, where the employers maybe will pay some of the schooling for the students who are doing the apprentice work in the spa or wherever. So that's a trade school model that's been around forever. So I like that, as long as, and there are going to be people who abuse it. We all know that. That's life. So hopefully students feel free enough to move out of that apprenticeship and into something else. I, on the other hand, do feel business should be taught in massage school. I think people need to have that option because, of course, when I went to school, business, you weren't taught anything. You went to school, you did all this stuff, and then you had to go out and educate people about what was massage so you could get customers. And so that's, how I built my practice. So I have an extensive business piece in my own program, and I cover everything: how to work for other people, how to work for yourself. So they have their options. Choose what you want. So now that I understand more of what Empower is, it's basically presenting a hybrid model. So I think I'm in total support of a hybrid model. Massachusetts would not allow it until the pandemic. Now we've done it. So it's going to be very hard for them to take it away from us. Of course, I worked in a community college. Community colleges have their own thing, so we're like kind of safe because the massage board couldn't tell the community college what to do because they have their own accreditation. But so in the end, I still feel the whole thing is communication right now. So it's very interesting to hear you, Sandy. I'm really happy to hear it. I too worked in Massage Envy, first helping people to work in Massage Envy. And then when I had gone away to work at Cortiva, and then when I came back, of course I gave away all my clients. And so I came back and I was like, I need to work. So I went to the Massage Envy that I worked for, helping train people, and said, I need work. And they was like, what? You want to come here? I go, yeah, I want to come here and work. I need to touch people. I will tell you, I only did it for about a month because, I was like, okie dokie, I'm walking out of here at the end of the day with $100 when if it was my own practice, it would be $500. But if I was brand new out of school, that would have been great. So I just feel we need more communication so that we all know what's really going on and that nobody's better than anybody else. We're massage therapists. We know that, right? So it's going to be up to us to help that forum take place. Wouldn't it be great if we had franchise people here? Well, you said you are, but Sandy, you're Sandy. That's a whole different ball of wax, okay? So we need some of the newbie, not OG, that will come and sit at the table and have a conversation like this, and then have it go on YouTube.
Well, maybe we can do that. I mean, we should do that.
Yeah.
Let's do that. I feel like, in all of this, I've been like, let's focus on the LMT owned businesses. There are a lot of massage therapists that own franchises. And I was like, well, let's talk to Sandy. She's a massage therapist. She owns franchise, right? It would be great, right? Because I contacted Sandy as a first point of contact so we could have that conversation. What is it at the franchise, right? What do you think about what I'm doing? What do you think about all of this, right? Because I feel like I've learned so much from talking to so many massage therapists about what they want to see in the future. What are they not getting? What are they complaining about, right? And what does this mean to the employer, right? So now, after all this time, I'm sitting here trying to figure out how can we bring these two mindsets together? Because I think that's where our big problem is right now, right? So maybe that's a good idea. And maybe that's something we need to focus on next, because I think it's super important for the future of our industry. We have 1,100 Massage Envy locations right now scrambling for employees and they can't find any. Like, what are they going to do? What are we going to do?
Yeah, they're going to figure it out. And whether it's Empower or something else, it's an opportunity. You can call it a deficit, you can call it whatever you want, but right now it's an opportunity. They're not going away. And so, I was on a call yesterday with 100 franchise owners. And they're not money grubbing people. And they want to provide good environment and opportunity. And that we're still stuck in not understanding what it is. And nobody reaches out to them. They would. You know, there's Eric, help me, Eric Stevenson, and
I know him.
yeah, he's intricately involved with Hand and
Stone.
Elements. Eric.
He's Elements because Hand and Stone was Michelle, I think.
And then
Nathan Nordstrom.
Yeah, Nathan is, you know, and the franchise structure has tried to reach out to the massage therapy community, and that they will figure out a way to staff. The spa industry in and of itself is innovative. iSpa, with the COVID stuff, iSpa did way better. The spa industry did way better than the massage industry did in supporting people. Way better.
Agreed.
And they think outside the box and all kinds of stuff. So if we're stuck in our box, somebody, hopefully, before I retire or die, I don't think I'll ever get to retire, but that we're going to let innovation improve things. Like the remote learning. Now we're there, finally, you know, and it can be done well. But in class can be done poorly too. So execution is important. And like we saw Deanna was talking about when the corporate schools jumped in, the motivation to create a connected quality program like people on the call have talked about wasn't there because they took a massage therapy curriculum and they modeled it, or they just molded it into what they do for all the other health occupations that they teach. And they went under. Most of them went under. So if, you know, things fix themselves. But if we're not willing to work towards innovative solutions quickly, and the massage therapy community moves at a snail's pace. I know. We're still arguing about stuff that we argued about 40 years ago. You know, we got to get over it. And I don't know how to make that happen. But you're trying to do something. That's why I support you.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we're trying, right? We're trying to get as many people as possible into this mindset, like, hey, we need to do something, you guys. Look at what's going on here. So, I mean, we're doing what we can. So, Karen, did you want to add anything to the discussion? I know you had your hand up there for a while.
Yes, I was wondering what people thought about who should be able to teach in a massage program, and should there be a training? Because in New York State, for example, you have to be a massage therapist for, I think, 3 years before you can teach. Plus, you have to have a bachelor's for the hands-on classes and a master's for the science classes. They're not specifying anything beyond that. And just because you have that degree doesn't mean you're going to be a good teacher. So, you know, and I think it would actually be helpful for the people teaching if there would be some sort of training, some sort of help, especially if we're talking about we're having hybrid programs, we're dealing with students that might have learning issues, we're dealing with, like right now in the pandemic, I'm dealing with students who don't even have Wi-Fi, who get cut out, who have to deal with taking care of their children, who, you know, like there's all kinds of stuff going on. So we're not really prepared for that, and a public school teacher gets training.
Deanna, do you want to talk about that as far as the AFMT's teacher training program goes? Is there anything in there about that? Like, let's hear what you guys are doing.
So let me do a little quick summary of the Alliance for Massage Therapy Education, which was started about 12 years ago. Because the AMTA schools group kind of disintegrated, and I think it evolved from that. Anyways, the Alliance started this project called the National Teacher Education Standards Project, which is it's based in phases that's supposed to last like 15 or 20 years. We're on to year 12, and we're in about phase 4-ish in that. And what that is first, these teaching standards were developed, and it's because the committees that got together are just amazing, brilliant people in massage who wanted to learn about teacher education. And so they studied and researched how things are done in the public sector, how things are done in other professional education programs like nursing teacher education and things like that, and put together a really fabulous document called the Core Competencies for Massage Therapy Teachers. And there are 10 competencies that it says if you see yourself doing if you can demonstrate that you do these things, then you're competent in this standard, and goes on the other 10 standards. And you can find that document. It's a PDF. You can get it on the afmte.org website somewhere. I'm sure that you will be following up with everyone on this call with a link to that, right? And so from those core competencies, the Alliance developed this teacher certification project. How do we get teachers in massage schools, in CE programs, anybody teaching massage at all, certified as a massage therapy teacher, which says you've met these 10 standards. You actually are competent in these core competencies, and so you can be certified. So there's 2 avenues to get certified so far. That's really the plan, was just these 2 avenues. The first plan is kind of a grandmothering in of folks who could go through and build a teaching portfolio, because we've been doing it for all these years, a way to demonstrate competency in all 10 standards. And so we put together this portfolio review process that somebody can put together their portfolio. Sandy, in fact, was our #1 very first certified instructor. And so I was the project manager for this project to get the grandmothering started. So people put together a portfolio. If they can demonstrate in that portfolio that they're competent in those 10 competencies, then they can become a certified massage and bodywork educator. So the alphabet soup is CMBE, or something like that goes after your name. And so then the other avenue for becoming certified is someone who can't demonstrate yet because they're a new teacher that they're competent in these things, or maybe wants to take some type of training program to become competent in these. So then the next phase that the certification process committee developed was a model teacher training curriculum. And it's really super. Actually, there's like 6 or 8 different courses and a whole practicum section that's a recommended minimum for someone teaching massage therapy education. And the skill sets are not content-based, although content is discussed in this, how to apply your content expertise and your content knowledge. But really what it's focused on is skill sets in teaching and learning, understanding how learning happens and how I can create environments and activities in the classroom that help people apply these concepts and this content in a way that actually people learn. And then how to assess whether or not learning's happened. These are skills that are unique to teaching that have nothing to do with whether you're a good massage therapist or not. And so everyone on this call was taught by people who had no training in teaching, but were fantastic massage therapists and arrived in the classroom and said, okay, just do what I do, which may have been effective. We all learned something. We went and practiced it ourselves, but we can be more effective if we learn how learning works and how to teach in a way that's effective for that learning process. And so that's the whole model teaching, the model curriculum. and it's available for it's available to the, if you want to start a teacher training program, I get to share this model curriculum with you, and you can if you choose to use it as even a basis of your thing, all you have to do is say, hey, I'm following the model curriculum provided by the Alliance, and then I believe if the Alliance gets its next grant, because that's how nonprofits work. You have to get a grant. If we get our next grant, we will actually build a teacher training program that someone could take through the Alliance. And so I believe that's in the discussions. I'm not on the board on purpose because I don't want to be in those leadership discussions. I'm the tell me what we're doing and I will implement this. That's the person I am. So I'm really, you might not be able to tell, but I'm really excited that this is happening in massage, because I really want people to understand that when they come to massage school, this is real education. This isn't something and that can happen in a school setting, that can happen in an apprenticeship setting, that can happen anywhere. That should and really needs to happen in the CE world, which is probably a whole nother discussion, Stephanie, about the various CE programs that are out there and how effective they are. But, that it needs to happen there. And, yes, massage profession moves at a snail's pace. I could barely say that. But this has to happen for us to continue to be a legitimate professions have to have there's a handful of criteria to be a legitimate profession, and real education for our educators in the area of teaching and learning is one of them. So thank you, because that's why I came on this call. I want to encourage everyone to find out about the Alliance and help me promote this so that we can get more educators doing these things. So anyways.
I mean, I've been looking at your programs at the Alliance, and I think that they look amazing. I've even been on a couple of the calls that you guys have done that have just been like free for the community. And yeah, like I really don't understand why more schools haven't adopted this yet, but I would be all for that.
Yeah, so it falls apart with this is a fantastic thing to do, and I am 110% supportive of all of this. But there's no legal mandate. And it's the same with board certification. I'm supportive of board certification. It's not perfect. I can poke holes in it, but it is something that is important. It's one of the criteria as a real profession. And it's above entry level. And, people don't do it. And
yeah, I mean, when I was in school, they told us not to. They were like, don't even bother.
And same with I don't think it's apathy. I don't know what it is, but people just don't go the extra mile like they used to sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think with all the changes that were going on with the NCB, TMB, and the NBLEX, like my teachers were just kind of like, well, the NBLEX is the thing you need to take now. Like you don't really need to do your board certification. So, I mean, I'd love to hear a different opinion on that and why we should still take board certification.
Because it's the right thing to do, and it's what an occupation that is working towards professionalism does. That's what it does. And it also provides a pathway to academic degrees. The one I worked with them forever and ever is with Siena Heights University. And they would give credit towards their bachelor's degree for the teacher training program.
Oh, nice.
They would do that. But again, lots of misinformation.
Mm-hmm.
If you're board certified, you can get up to 60 credits. 60 credits towards a bachelor's degree. Do you know how much money that is?
That's actually really good. And I don't think a lot of people know that.
It's free. I mean, it's just a transfer, you know, and they've been doing this forever. It's like the apprenticeship program. Well, they don't know anything about massage. You know, there's a lot about massage that has nothing to do with massage.
True.
So, and I get real passionate about this, but I'm frustrated at my age and how long I've been fighting these battles and bringing forth information and all that. 40 years of it, and I get weary, and I don't I don't see a lot of leadership coming forward. Again, that's why we don't agree on everything, Stephanie. You don't have to agree on everything.
Right.
I support you because you're the next generation coming up as leaders. And
I know we need to get more young people.
Yes, we
doing this.
We desperately need to do that.
Yeah. I mean, I know I just brought, so we're kind of forming a board, and like Diane Taves, she's probably, you know, a little older. And then we've got somebody who's coming in who is around my age, and I'm, you know, in my 40s. But like, I want to have like some, you know, a young employee that's working in a franchise come be on my board, right? Come and be here. And I want to make sure too that like in our associations right now, I see that we've had leadership that's been in there for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. And I'm like, that's cool. I like that. But at the same time, when I'm thinking about how we could do this maybe a little bit more progressively, like every couple of years, let's get new people in there. Let's get fresh ideas in there. And let's see if we can just keep doing that so that we're constantly evolving and not just staying the same and having the same story and doing, you know, fighting the same battle for 40 years, right?
I made my son, Luke, who is my legacy coming up with textbooks and teaching. He's in his young 30s. I made him go to some meetings. And he came back so disillusioned and so frustrated and so defeated. And it wasn't just one of the organizations that he said, I'm not going to do it, Mom. I've got better things to do with my life than sit in a room with a bunch of people that just don't get it and they don't want to get it.
Yeah. Yeah. I've kind of had that experience too, where I've tried to talk to some of the other board members of other associations, and they just kind of keep ignoring me. And I'm just like, well, I'm just going to keep talking. You can keep ignoring me until you can't ignore me anymore. Right. So I don't know what to say.
You keep talking. You keep talking. I know some of the other board members on some of those other organizations that are going to perceive you as a threat because you might be a competition. Don't let that stop you. Keep doing what you're doing. We need you. We want to retire someday. Please.
I'm gonna say something too. It's the old paradigm has to change.
Yeah.
And it's got to fall apart now. And they are gonna fight her tooth and nail. But we're here, and we are part of the old paradigm, but we're also about change.
That's right.
Yeah.
You know.
I know.
And so, and you know, politics is always the death of stuff. And so, and in massage, there's been a lot of breaking apart and terrible things that have happened, but we're still here. So yeah, just keep doing what you're doing. It's scary for people but people who have held a position for, 20 years, good Lord.
I know.
Step aside and let somebody else come in that is new and fresh. So
yes, and Sandy, you should have your son talk to me.
Because I hear him. I have a 34-year-old daughter, and she says to me, Mom, if you think I'm going to work every day for the rest of my life until I retire, she said, no way. And then be too old to do anything. She said, nope, I'm going to work. I'm going to put my money aside. I'm going to buy a piece of land. And then when I'm ready, and it won't be when I'm your age, I'm going to go farm the land.
Yeah. And I see that with my younger students, that they don't want to do it the way I did it.
Nope.
And, and they shouldn't have to.
No, I agree. Yep.
Yeah.
I agree.
So, I mean, let's talk about, we only have about 15 minutes left. So let's talk about the future. Like what does that look like for us as far as education goes? What do you think we're going to keep seeing? What do you expect to see in 5 years, 10 years? Are we going to do something different?
I had really hoped that the community colleges were going to take off. I really thought that was going to be the thing, and they're not.
Well, you know, like I said, I ran a program for over 9 years in the community college. And the problem with, it's not a problem. The issue for community colleges is they're not very well funded, and their spaces are small. So we did fantastically in there. We made so much money for the college through our clinics and everything. But a new president came in, and he wasn't really interested in massage. He kicked me out, basically. He terminated was the word he used in an email that went around the entire college. So the program was terminated, and he put in aerodynamics. I mean, I can see his thinking. Of course, it was devastating for me. So now we don't have a program there.
Yeah, a lot of community colleges have dropped their massage therapy program.
I think that's what happens. They say, well, you know, but massage was starting to go down. This was in 2014 when he terminated it. And, you know, there was starting to be that less people applying to the school kind of thing. So as people are interested, maybe we can get the colleges interested again.
And as a single owner, single program massage therapy school, it's really hard work. And there's been many times that I have done massage to pay bills for the school. And I've kept with it all these years because I feel like there is an opportunity for me to touch a few lives that could possibly make a difference in this profession. I love massage therapy, but it's hard and it's not profitable. And you know, it's hard to find teachers. It's hard to keep the quality up. And, you know, we could tell the same story with why people can't find workers, or, you know, and Deanna, I know you're involved. I mean, she's up and coming and gung-ho and diving into the single owner school. And, you know, sometimes we get driven right into the ground with state regulation. Accreditation is, I absolutely 100% support endorsed curriculum through COMP.
Me too.
That is absolutely achievable for anybody.
Yep.
That wants to commit to that. It's not accreditation. It is a curriculum peer review process. Most of the smaller schools cannot afford to go through a full accreditation process.
I've taken 5 different programs through the accreditation process, and it is not necessary for small schools and cost prohibitive. I mean, it really is. And you can have quality education without, I mean, most people go through the accreditation process because they want to then become approved through the Department of Education to be able to offer Title IV funding, financial aid. And so I've taken some schools through that process, and it's oppressive. The amount of staff you have to hire just to be able to write the reports you can't afford to do on the number of students going to school today. Having said that, I 100% support single owner operator kind of things that maybe even have a clinic attached to it, for example, in Sandy's situation, because it's scary to be in a community college situation. They aren't all about massage like we are. Their bottom lines aren't affected one iota if they have massage versus aerospace engineering or whatever it is you said. You know, it's a program, and if they've got students in the seats, that makes sense. If I was running the community college, I'd have to look at it that way. And so I think there's a place for us in the community colleges, but I really hope independent folks and younger folks decide to open massage schools and learn from these hybrid situations and use their technological skills that we didn't have when we started this stuff. You know, I just think that it can be, it can keep our profession going if the professionalism is maintained at the same time. And so I support small independent private schools to continue to do this. I also know a couple people who have tried to do it the nonprofit way, which has been demonstrated to work in the past, and also it can be really tricky because, again, the more you choose to be regulated by outside entities, the harder it is and the more expensive it is. So
then, Deanna, I'm going to bring up a topic for you to discuss, and it's the push towards academic degrees for an entry-level point for massage therapy.
Yeah.
Take it totally out of the realm of a single owner, vocationally based.
Well, and it'll take it out of the realm of massage therapists getting to speak to the education of massage therapists at all.
Yes.
What'll happen is other healthcare providers whose licenses supersede ours, will be looped into there. I mean, we've all seen that coming. If we continue along the lines to be accepted along those lines, and that requires degrees. I mean, we now see that PTs have to have a PhD now. They didn't a number of years ago, but because that's the pathway, that's what will happen to massage. Yeah. And massage needs to keep an entry-level pathway for folks that don't need an academic degree. And how many of our friends and us have pursued academic degrees that we still maybe are, some of my younger friends are still in debt from those things. You have to be able to say, you know, what's a massage therapist going to make? And are you going to make more because you have a bachelor's degree in massage? No. Of course not. No. We just discussed that you're probably not going to make more if you do the 1,000-hour awesome program with the externships, which we hope you do, but you're not going to make more at the beginning. No. And so I just think we have to be careful what we want, saying what we want, and continue to just hold the line at the basics. And that includes expectations coming into the program. Good enough, because, I don't need board certification, so why do I pay for that? Good enough training is not the kind of person we want leading our profession. We want, what do I need to do to be the most skilled and the one that stands out in my community? Just asking that question already makes you far superior to most massage therapists you're within 10 miles of, because you're actually thinking along those lines. And so speaking to our students that way, I think is critical. But I feel like we could have a whole discussion around that, Stephanie, around degrees and different things, but it's already hard for students who are willing to go and pay $13,000, maybe $15,000 for a program for, in certain situations. If it's an accredited program, they're going to charge a lot more because they got to pay for that somehow. Mm-hmm. And the more hours you take, the more footprint the school has to have, so it's going to be more expensive. And so is that debt they're accruing, what's the return on their investment? We have to care about what the return on the investment for the student is. And if they can't pay off their schooling in a year or two, then it might be too expensive. And my soapbox about the whole tuition going down, I don't believe we should reduce tuition. That's not going to equal higher educational standards. But what you've seen in the industry where tuitions are going down is because the more expensive schools have gone out of business. That's or right. It's been in another program, in a career school that decided massage is out, this one's in because we can do this one fully online and we don't have to care about hands-on stuff. And comparing that with the community colleges was really tricky because community colleges fall under regional accreditation, which no private school can get.
That's right.
And so they have access to a lot more resources. And I love that. That's why I think both need to continue.
Yes.
Because there are students that need that and benefit from that. And they might want to pursue another degree, and there's their path right through community college, but they don't need that to start practicing massage and actually pay for their path after that.
Right.
That's what we should be promoting, I think. So
medicalization, medicalization of massage, and that we're going to be more accepted if we are academically trained, I think is a real problem.
I agree.
That is not our future.
No.
I would but I want a pathway for that if people want to do that, but not have
That's
to
right.
there.
Right.
And I can tell you, so I have a degree in molecular and cellular biology. I did the academic path. I worked in the basement in the University of Arizona lab for a long time and actually paid my bills with massage while I did that, by the way. Research is not any more profitable than massage is. So I understand the academic pathway, and I also know that it's not necessary to be able to communicate effectively with other healthcare providers.
Right.
That's why we want to be involved. We want to be able to communicate with them.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. We don't want to be them. We don't want them to be us.
Right.
We need to be able to communicate, though, because it benefits our clients, and that's the number one reason we should do it. I don't need my students to have a bachelor's or a master's in something to do that. So thank you for letting me have that other soapbox too, Sandy.
I did a podcast last week on entry-level education, and I was talking about that on there because that's one of the things that I noticed when I started looking at it. Everybody's like, "Oh, we need to be respected, accepted by healthcare and everything." But then everybody was also talking about their wages, and then when I started looking at it, I was like, these programs, like if I'm working for a chiropractor, I'm probably going to make less money than I'm going to make in a spa. And if I work for the VA program or the Mayo Clinic, I'm not going to make any more money.
That's right.
Right? I'm just working.
You may have to volunteer. You actually may have to volunteer.
Well, in the old
to
days,
get in some of those. I
I'm
volunteered for every medical program I was in.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like I'm just working with a different person and in a different environment, but it doesn't mean that I'm getting something better. No. And I don't really know that I'd be more respected there. Because I feel like in the medical profession, we've got our doctors and they look at, I have family members that are doctors and they're like, "Oh, you're going to be a massage therapist?" Yeah. Okay. I have them. Mm-hmm. Like they don't care. They just kind of like brush me off. You know what I mean? Because they don't
respect the nurses with PhDs.
Right.
So
we're the lowest of the medical profession.
They don't need to understand what we do. Well, I would argue a different point. They do need to understand what we do if they're referring people to us. Yeah. But we need to be able to communicate with them. And you know what? As soon as you start communicating with someone with legitimate information about the human body who doesn't remember where the biceps brachii is because they barely learned it in medical school because they had to practice, saying all those pharmaceutical things they have to do. I know I have family members who are in medicine. I have plenty of friends who went the doctor route because when we studied, cellular biology together, that was kind of like all of my fellow students were going to be doctors. So I know a lot of people that do that, and we are experts in what we do. They don't corner the market on the human body. In fact, we know a lot more about the human body in some ways than they do. So it doesn't need to be a comparison. And if more massage therapists could speak just like that, could just talk to it like that confidently, my program was 1,008 hours at the Desert Institute, and it took me 2 years to get my massage degree. You know what? It's just as valid to me as some, degree hanging on my wall from the University of Arizona, and I use it a lot more. I use it a lot more. So I don't think comparing is necessary.
No.
No, I definitely think you're right about that. I've talked to my uncle who, he works in a hospital, he's an anesthesiologist, and I know more about muscles than he does.
Of course.
It's like, it's obvious in conversation.
And I want you to. I want him to know how to put me to sleep. That's
right.
Perfectly fine with me.
Right.
So, yeah, it's been really interesting. Well, I'm so glad that you guys all came on our call today. Thank you so much for being here and participating. I think this was a really good discussion. Is there anything else that you want to talk about? Anything else you want to add before we go?
I have to put a plug in for the International Consortium on Manual Therapies. I've gotten Stephanie involved with it. It is a group of manual therapists around the globe that are looking for commonalities and a common language that we all can speak. And they have, it's osteopaths, chiropractors, physical therapists, and massage therapists, instructional integration, and we are all equal at the table. And I will post on my Facebook page again a link to this. The first conference is going to be in Arizona next spring. I think it's pivotal. And I asked them, would it make a difference to you? These are worldwide experts. This is big deal.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah. Would it make any difference to you if we had a degree? And 2 of 1, they said no. What we want is that you confidently know your craft and what you do. We would like to all be able to talk together. That's part of the problem, is there's 57 names for the same thing and nobody knows what they're talking about. You know, we can't understand each other. And so it's coming up, and I think it's really important, and it's non-political, and it's an open forum of how do we figure this out. So I'm going to do that. Deanna got 2 soapboxes.
Good. I'm really excited to be involved in that too.
I'm way over my quota on soapboxes.
Yeah, but I'm really excited about this too. I've learned a lot on the ICMT forum, and it's been like just listening to other people talk about their profession, us asking questions and them asking questions of us, like, what does this actually mean? What are you doing when you do this? You know, and it's just been really interesting to listen to these calls and be on them. So I'm excited to see that. And I hope that that does help us to be able to work alongside these providers. Not that that's what, everybody needs to do, but I think it would be really great to have that integration and just like this seamless flow between us. If we, working with a physical therapist, if we're able to connect with each other and we can actually help a client in a bigger way because we can speak to each other and because we can complement each other's work, then let's do that. So, yeah. All right. Anybody else? No? Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for being on here. It was a pleasure to meet all of you that I haven't met yet. And we're probably going to do another one of these. I know that there are a few other people that really wanted to be on this call that they couldn't make it this time. So I think we're going to do one more, and we'll probably set it up for mid-July or the end of July. So we'll look forward to that. And then I also wanted to mention, Sandy, since you mentioned ICMT, we will do a podcast together and talk about that soon in the next few weeks. And then once I get this video done, I'm going to put it up on the USO LMT YouTube channel. I will send an email out to everybody that participated and everybody that was interested. And if you guys want to, come and join our Facebook group. It's USO LMT. Just look it up online. There are 5 of them because we have some in the state, but the national group doesn't have like a state initial attached to it. So if you find us on Facebook, go there, join us. We just ask a lot of questions and we have a lot of really good conversations in there. So yeah, that's it. So thank you guys, and we will talk to you soon. All right. Bye, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.